In alcohol dependence, we have 3 FDA-approved medications in this country. In the US, we have Antabuse, which was approved, I believe, in 1949, and somewhat more recently, we have naltrexone, and that's available in both an oral form and a longer-acting injectable form. And acamprosate is the newest molecular entity that's been approved for alcohol dependence in the US. However, nalmefene has just been approved in the European Union on an as-needed basis, which is a new approach to alcohol dependence. Rather than taking a medication consistently, you take it when you feel that you need it. What are the factors that would support using one of the approved medications to treat alcohol dependence over another, or not using any medication at all? That's a very interesting question. Acamprosate works to restore some of the balance between a glutamate system that often becomes hyperactive in early recovery. And so if you have an individual who has some of the symptoms of early abstinence, like sleep disturbance, for example, or strong craving, I might consider acamprosate. Acamprosate does take some time to reach steady state. So if you want to block someone rapidly from using, you might consider Antabuse or naltrexone. Both naltrexone and Antabuse have black box warnings about potential hepatotoxicity, whereas acamprosate is not metabolized in the liver. And so if you have an alcoholic who has some degree of liver compromise, which many alcoholics do, then acamprosate would be a good choice. In terms of not using any medications at all, I think that's something that involves patient preference and physician preference, and what an individual's goals are, their ability to stick with that type of treatment regimen, and of course any medical contraindications that may be associated with any of those medications. Actually, Suboxone is perhaps our one blockbuster drug for the treatment of addiction, primarily opioid dependence, in that it exceeds $1 billion in sales. And it's an interesting approach because it binds quite tightly to the receptor that's involved in opioid dependence, so that you're really wasting your money if you buy and use heroin while you're on Suboxone. But it allows enough of the replacement effects to come through that the individual is not as likely to experience the withdrawal symptoms, acute or protracted withdrawal symptoms, that may prompt drug seeking and using. Vaccines work by kind of sucking up the drug before it even gets to the brain. So it would be important in relapse prevention. There are no FDA-approved treatments for cannabis dependence. We rely a lot on behavioral treatment, but what we've found is that in both teens and adults, there is often difficulty dealing with more complex types of cognitive information. And if you're relying on cognitive treatments, for an individual who has perhaps some compromise in their cognitive ability, you can see where efficacy might be a bit reduced. We've had success with double-blind placebo-controlled trial of gabapentin in cannabis-dependent adults, where we found significantly less use as well as improvement in sleep, mood, craving, and executive functions relative to placebo. And there has been a trial of N-acetylcysteine in cannabis-dependent adolescents that shows promise. But these are investigational uses of these compounds, not FDA approved, but maybe on the horizon.